There's someone I want you to meet today. He's in his mid-30s. Not loud, not flashy, just reliable. The kind of person people call when things need to get done. He shows up early. He stays late. He does what's right, even when no one is watching. And honestly, Bob, he's done everything right. Or at least everything he knew how to do. Before we go any further, let me pause here for just a moment. Where are you watching from today? Take a second and tell me in the comments. And if this story encourages you, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for me, but so someone else who needs this can find it too. Now, let me properly introduce you to him. His name is Ethan. Ethan has spent years helping everyone around him move forward. When friends were stuck, he helped them think clearly. When family needed support, he showed up without being asked. When others celebrated promotions, breakthroughs, new beginnings, Ethan was genuinely happy for them. But when it was his turn, nothing happened. Same effort, same discipline, same faith. Different result? Doors stayed closed, progress stalled. And quietly, without complaining, Ethan began to wonder, why does doing everything right still leave me standing still? What Ethan didn't know was that his story had already been written in Scripture. Ethan is 36. He's the kind of man people trust, the kind who shows up early and leaves late. When someone needs help, Ethan is already there. When someone is struggling, he listens. When someone is lost, he gives direction. And for a long time, Ethan believed that doing good would eventually lead him somewhere good. But years passed, and nothing changed. His prayers felt unanswered. His plans kept failing. Opportunities slipped away quietly. While others moved forward, Ethan stayed stuck. Not because he was lazy, not because he was careless, but because every door he approached remained closed. And late at night, when the world finally grew silent, Ethan asked the question many of us are afraid to say out loud. What am I doing wrong? Ethan didn't stop believing, but he did start wondering why his effort never seemed to return anything back to him. He watched people he helped move ahead of him. He watched prayers he prayed for others get answered, while his own stayed quiet. And the hardest part wasn't the waiting. It was the silence. No clear direction, no reassurance, no sign that heaven was paying attention. Ethan kept doing the right things anyway. He kept serving, kept giving, kept showing up. Even when it felt invisible, even when it hurt. Some nights he sat alone and replayed his life, every choice, every sacrifice, every prayer. And he wondered, did I misunderstand God? Because from where he stood, it felt like obedience had led him into a hallway of closed doors. Yet somehow, Ethan still couldn't walk away. Something inside him refused to quit. Not hope, not faith, but endurance. And he didn't know it yet, that endurance was quietly shaping him for something far greater than immediate relief. One evening, Ethan opened his Bible without really knowing why. Not looking for answers, just looking for something that felt familiar. And that's when he noticed it. How often the Bible speaks about waiting. Joseph did everything right, yet he was betrayed, forgotten, and left in prison. David was anointed king, but waited years while hiding in caves. Job was faithful, yet lost everything without explanation.
Ethan realized something that unsettled him. None of these men were punished. They were positioned. Their waiting wasn't rejection, it was preparation. Joseph needed endurance before authority. David needed humility before leadership. Job needed surrender before restoration. And suddenly Ethan's silence didn't feel empty anymore, it felt intentional, as if God wasn't withholding answers, but building capacity. Because the Bible never promises that obedience leads to speed. It promises that obedience leads to purpose, and purpose often requires waiting. Ethan didn't wake up the next morning with a new opportunity. Nothing around him changed. The doors were still closed. The silence was still there. But something inside him shifted. For the first time, Ethan stopped asking, "When will this end?" and started asking, "What is this forming in me?" He realized that waiting had taught him patience. Silence had taught him listening. And disappointment had stripped away his need to control outcomes. Ethan saw it clearly now. If his prayers had been answered too early, he would have been unprepared. If the doors had opened too soon, he would have walked through them as the same man, and broken under the weight of what was waiting on the other side. God hadn't been slow, God had been careful, careful not to elevate him before grounding him, careful not to promote him before refining him, careful not to answer him before shaping him. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan didn't feel behind anymore. He felt held. Ethan didn't suddenly receive clarity about where his life was going. There was no announcement, no open door, no moment that proved the waiting was over. But he began to walk differently. Not faster, not louder, just steadier. He stopped chasing outcomes and started tending his character. He kept helping others, not because he hoped it would return something to him, but because it was who he had become. He stopped measuring his life by visible progress and started measuring it by inner peace. Some days were still hard, some questions still lingered, but the weight felt lighter because Ethan finally understood this. Waiting doesn't mean standing still. Sometimes waiting is how God teaches you to walk without certainty and still move forward with faith. And for the first time, Ethan wasn't afraid of the unknown ahead. He trusted the one who was guiding his steps, even when he couldn't see the path.
And maybe Ethan's story isn't really about Ethan. Maybe it's about you, about the season you're in right now, the one where you've done everything right and nothing seems to be moving. You've been faithful, you've been patient, you've shown up for others even when you were running low yourself. And quietly, you've wondered if any of it matters, if God sees you, if the waiting means you missed something or did something wrong. But Scripture tells us something we often forget. Waiting has never been wasted. Not for Joseph, not for David, not for Job, and not for you. What feels like delay is often development. What feels like silence is often protection. And what feels like being overlooked may be the very place where God is shaping you for what you're not ready to carry yet. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, and you are not doing faith wrong. You are being formed quietly, carefully, and intentionally. Just like Ethan. And just like every story in Scripture that didn't make sense until it did.
Ethan's story doesn't end with a sudden breakthrough. It ends with something quieter. trust. The kind that remains even when answers don't arrive on time. The kind that walks forward without needing certainty. If you're in a season like this, where life feels still and faith feels heavy, know this: you are not late, you are not forgotten, and your waiting is not empty. If this story encouraged you, please like, share, and subscribe. Not for numbers, but so someone else who needs this reminder can find it too. And wherever you are, whatever season you're in, keep walking. The light ahead is real, even if you can't see it yet.